For 51 weeks of the year, Mrs. Lynn Kelly is the kind of person that other women make fun of and feel sorry for and can't stand. Doesn't she know these are the 1990s, they ask each other behind her back. Hasn't she heard of women's lib? Every morning, Mrs. Lynn Kelly cooks her family a hot breakfast, scrambled eggs 3 times a week, other days porridge. She packs nourishing school lunches. She starts supper simmering in the crock pot. She waters the plants and feeds the cat, and checks that everyone is wearing sweaters and scarves and boots and mittens. Don't forget your school books, she reminds the children. They all go out the front door together. The children go to school. Mr. Lynn Kelly heads in one direction to go to his office. Mrs. Lynn Kelly heads the other way to hers. She gets to work early and puts on coffee, so it is ready by the time everyone else arrives. All day long she's busy. People keep putting more things on her desk because they know she won't complain. She's amazing, all the men say to each other, and they wonder why other women aren't the same. She's crazy, the women mutter to each other. She makes us look bad. But they like the coffee being ready when they arrive. They like the way she helps them when they're busy. So they're gracious to her face, but laugh behind her back. After work, Mrs. Lynn Kelly hurries home. She might put a load of laundry in the washer while the vegetables cook. After supper, her children do homework around the kitchen table while she washes dishes and tidies up. She mends and sews on buttons while she watches TV shows with Mr. Lynn Kelly. If he feels thirsty, she makes a pot of tea. On weekends, she gives the house a proper cleaning. On Sundays, all the grandparents and aunts and uncles show up for a roast beef and Yorkshire pudding dinner. Of course, there is apple pie and a wedge of old cheddar for dessert. When Mrs. Lynn Kelly puts it on the table, her husband always recites an ancient couplet. Apple pie without the cheese is like a kiss without a squeeze. He smiles at his wife and she smiles back. The family watches this every week like an old minuet. Mr. and Mrs. Lynn Kelly taking the same old-fashioned steps while all the others watch. Let's enjoy it while we can, says Mr. Lynn Kelly to the children. They remember and agree. The days lengthen towards spring. Mrs. Lynn Kelly starts piling things in the front hall, sleeping bag, sweaters, blankets. She sweeps the porch. She gets in extra groceries and leaves recipes and menus taped to the fridge. The dentist phones to make an appointment. Not in May, she tells him. Every morning, she looks up at the bedroom window and studies the tree on the front lawn. Mr. Lynn Kelly climbs out of bed and joins her. Pretty soon now, he says. Rest up, she tells him, because you always get so tired. They all check the tree as they go out the door to work and school. They check it again when they return. The neighbors watch and know it won't be long. The magnolia tree begins to change. At the end of each bare branch, a pointed bud starts to fatten. The night before the flowers open, Mrs. Lynn Kelly sleeps on the front porch. She lies inside her sleeping bag, the cat curled up beside her. The family bring her a hot breakfast. They drop off a thermos of tea and a nourishing lunch before they set out for work and school. They leave the door unfastened so she can get inside to the bathroom. She doesn't need to do this very often. Her body chemistry seems to change at this time, like a salmon as it moves from fresh water into the sea. The postman tries to hand her letters, but she ignores him. He finally shoves them through the mail slot as usual. Each blossom is distinct, immaculate, standing upright like a candle. Light shines from inside them. They glow like mother of pearl, polished seashells, wings of angels. The petals, tinted pink near the vague base, fade to creamy white at top. Each blossom stands erect, aloof, as though absorbed in its own perfection. Mrs. Lynn Kelly expects this. All the same, she is always amazed. They look plastic, artificial. Stiff and formal as painted still life flowers, as though they will stay like this forever. Mr. Len Kelly brings her supper. Guess what happened today, the children say, trying to get her attention. She ignores them. They always forget that this will happen. In the light from the streetlights, the flowers seem more luminous than ever. It is though light shines from inside the flowers, and the streetlights are simply pale reflections. When the moon and stars appear, she studies the sky. She has memorized the May constellations. She looks back and forth from the glowing blossoms to the moon and stars, and knows she has discovered the secret to perfect bliss. Chirping birds wake her in the morning. This is the only way to be awakened, she thinks. Mr. Len Kelly and the children say goodbye as they leave for school and work. And hello when they come home. They speak loudly, but she doesn't hear them. She hopes for ideal weather, but it never happens. After a couple of days, it rains. The flowers wilt a bit, wind blows against them. Petals drift toward the ground like pieces of pale sky. She remembers Chicken Little, who saw the sky fall down. Petal by petal, she watches each blossom disintegrate. The vulnerability of flowers makes her cry. They remind her of old women who contain girlhood inside their bodies, their graceful gestures, their iridescent eyes. The petals cover the ground, only a few at first. She thinks the girls in high school formals, corsages awkwardly cling to their shoulders. The girls keep dancing as the flowers slip out of place. More petals fall to the ground. Instead of throwing her bouquet, the bride pulls each flower apart and watches the petals blow away. Magnolia petals comfort the ground like a blanket of white flowers on a grave. Afterward, Mrs. Len Kelly moves carefully back into her old life. It takes almost a week before she has learned it perfectly and her family can relax. Thank you.